Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It's going great. We finally got beautiful weather here in Louisville, Kentucky, and today's Oaks Day for everyone that is listening or watching. I can't wait to see the rest of the races.
Yeah. Tomorrow. So Oaks is the day before the Derby, as you probably all know what the Kentucky Derby is. And so everyone's really excited around town. I know a lot of people are kind of taking the day off to celebrate and everything else, but we're hard at work here trying to provide you guys with some awesome content. So we're really excited for today's guest.
Yeah. Speaking of the guest, she is Esther Lowenbein, and how she raced through 3 years of commercial real estate. She was a speech pathologist and turned into commercial real estate agent. And I mean, she quickly scaled her business to over $250 million portfolio, guys. Like in 3 years, for all of you guys that's listening and who knows in commercial real estate, that's a pretty great feat in just 3 short years in commercial real estate. Some people don't even come out in 3 years to even really get their feet wet until 3 years into commercial real estate. So she's very impressive from her business background and personal life. So do you have anything else to say, Raphael, about that?
I mean, she just struck me as a very impressive person in a variety of ways. A big one being her ability to be a serial networker. She kind of self-proclaimed serial networker, and she just uses her ability to connect with others in order to build those relationships that have allowed her to be able to leverage in the commercial real estate industry. So she's been awesome on that front. And she also talked a little bit about being able to juggle those responsibilities, because as she's been able to scale as quickly as she has, obviously she has some kids at home. She actually has 8 children. So she's able to manage that relationship with them and make sure she's always present in their lives, but also be able to handle her responsibility as on the work front. And then we also talked about her experiences in the content creation piece. She actually is involved in a variety of different publications, primarily the New York Lifestyle magazine, where she writes a column, and she's been able to utilize that relationship with the magazine to start interviewing with a significant amount of very prominent people in the real estate space, further expanding her network in commercial real estate. So I think you guys are going to gain a lot of value from this episode. I know I did, and I really appreciated the conversation that we all had. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in this episode. Welcome to the podcast. We're really excited to see you, Esther. We actually reached out to you via LinkedIn. We were both involved in the commercial real estate challenge put on by Yona Weiss. And so I saw a lot of the content she was pushing out through the contest, and I thought it would be a great idea to reach out to her and kind of pick her brain on her experiences in the commercial real estate space. So welcome, really.
For having me on.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Fiona for connecting us.
Oh, Fiona. Yeah, of course. No, she's awesome as well. So big shout out to her. But one thing I wanted to mention, it's in particular, when we first get people on the podcast, we like to learn a little bit more about themselves and their story and what got them into their current role or position. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you into commercial real estate?
My story is long, but what got me into commercial real estate was several factors that got me in that I'll share today. So number one, I was a speech language pathologist before, and I was working with children. And as my children were getting to those ages of the children I was working with, it became very difficult to work with children and then come home to children. I just needed that little more professional environment. So that was one thing. And then I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and I was working in a school or an agency as a speech language pathologist. It was fairly simple, working back to back. As long as the schedule flowed, work was easy, since I worked for one agency in one location. When I moved to Rockland County, the speech language pathology system was very different. Every agency got random cases all over, so I'd have to travel. So I said, I was traveling from house to house, and I said, the only way I'm traveling from house to house is selling the homes and not working in them. Those are like 2 factors. There were many, many other factors that pushed me to commercial real estate. I started out on the residential end, And then I always had an eye for the commercial side, but several instances pushed me into the commercial, which I'm super excited about. And another reason I just decided to switch careers to something that pretty much fit my personality. I like to network. I like to meet people. I like numbers. So I figured, this might be a good job for me. So I had that in my head and I went for it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's, I feel like a lot of reasons why people kind of dive into real estate in general. It is a very much a relationship based business, in particular in commercial real estate, where, one relationship you could have for many years that turns into multiple transactions. And then obviously the fact that you do like numbers and you like dealing with business owners and investors, that kind of lends itself well to having success in the industry. And we're going to dive in a little bit more later in the podcast about your experiences networking, because I think it's going to be very valuable to hear what your insights are on that front. So
you were saying that you're transitioning from speech pathology to the commercial real estate. How was that when you were transitioning, and what are like some of the lessons that you learned along the way from your experience?
Okay, so as a speech language pathologist, I did my job. As a mom, I did my job, but I did not know anything else about financing or about real estate. My husband and I had this running joke that we are in a workshop. He would work and I would shop. All I would do is swipe the credit card. That was my extent of financial knowledge. I didn't know how to pay a bill. I didn't know what a mortgage was when we bought our first home 4.5 years ago. To that extent. So when I got into real estate, I was coming from knowing absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing. I didn't even know what a mortgage was. So that was like a real challenge. Like also when you're dealing with professionals in commercial real estate, you can't say, hey, I don't know what that is. You have to know all that stuff yesterday. You can't come into a deal dealing with professionals that are in the industry for several years, not knowing anything. So that was a big challenge. I had to learn everything and I had to learn it really fast.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, with commercial real estate in particular, it's so fluid because you're dealing with so many different types of properties. So you could be doing a deal in the industrial setting and all of a sudden you switch over to office and there's completely different things you got to know about that particular property type. And so it can be an extremely big challenge. And do you think that when you started off in residential real estate, did that prepare you at all for that transition, or did you pick up some things from the residential setting that you were able to apply to your commercial endeavors?
Right. So I always wanted to go straight into the commercial aspect, but when I approached the broker at the office I joined, she's like, you need to start with the residential side. And I was like, that doesn't really make sense because they're two totally different animals. But I'm like, you know what? I don't mind learning that too. So I say, I'll dive into that as well. It's very different, but it has, obviously like underlining similarities where you're dealing with people. So that can be challenging, right? On the residential end, you're more of a marriage counselor and a psychologist and a advisor, and you're giving up your Sundays, and that takes away time from the kids. And I showed one client a house. I showed him 50 homes before he chose his. And then one client, I chose a bunch of homes, and then they moved to another community. So there's a lot of that, you're dealing with people more, that it's more emotionally involved. In commercial real estate, it's more like factual. It's more like, does the number make sense? Does the location make sense? So I enjoy that more professional environment. Coming into commercial. But if there's anything I learned, it's definitely how to deal with people. People's money is valuable to them, no matter how much it is, whether they're buying a $400,000 home or a $10 million home. It's their hard-earned money, and we have to treat their money with respect and care like we would want someone to treat ours.
Oh, for sure. Because you're a steward of that money, right? Because you're the one who's advising them to either purchase their residence, or even on the investment side, helping them purchase a large industrial complex or an office building or whatever else. And in both those scenarios, there's going to be an expenditure that comes forth, and that is obviously their hard-earned money, and you want to make sure that it's the right property for them. So that's awesome.
Yeah, another factor is that we pledge fiduciary duties to our client.
Oh, for sure.
So we have to be transparent, regardless of what, from the residential or commercial or any industry or any business. you have to, people appreciate the transparency, the honesty, and they enjoy working with such people. So that's another lesson we can learn from both industries.
Oh, that's awesome. No, for sure. So given your experiences thus far, how have you been able to scale so quickly? Because like you said, you've been in the business 4 years ago, you didn't know what a mortgage was, and now you're doing multi-million-dollar transactions. You've done well over hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate deals up to this point. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how you were able to scale your business as quickly as you have over the last couple of years?
Yes. So number one, working hard. Just getting out there. First of all, as I started learning, I started teaching others. So that kind of like put me in check to know things and to like kind of review it and then teach the next person. So I got to learn from that. So that was, it's nonstop learning. And then also putting in that time, putting in that effort, making connections. So that is vital, like making connections, getting out into that field, not being embarrassed to say, please teach me that. Help me with that. Reaching out to a mentor, reaching out to someone that you can ask questions. I didn't have too much of that, but that would be very valuable to someone coming in. And I did do that wherever I was able to. And I did get lucky with some connections. So that was, I have to add that is some people just were in my little sphere. So that really helped me scale fast.
Yeah. But again, there maybe is a component of what you deem luck, but you put yourself in a position to get lucky. Arnold Palmer said, the more I practice, the luckier I get, right? You put yourself in those positions on a regular basis and luck tends to happen, So I definitely don't want you to undermine what you've been able to do because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Once I committed to getting started in real estate, I did not stop. I do not stop learning, do not stop researching, listening to podcasts, reading books. I haven't watched a movie since I started. Someone asked me the other day about some character. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I know my kids and my work. That's all I know. So you have to put in that time and effort. And I'm living, breathing, speaking commercial real estate right now.
Yeah. And I love what you said earlier too, related to not knowing everything, because again, you're not in anything you do in life, I feel like you're not expected to know everything, but you're expected to figure it out. So even if you don't necessarily know something, telling your client saying, look, I don't know that right now, but I'll get back to you. I'll do the research and get back to you. I feel like that goes a long way. And I know even in my interactions, both prior to commercial real estate and in commercial real estate, that's been, a valuable lesson that I've learned. So
100%.
Well, it's speaking of like, you're living and breathing on commercial real estate. What are some steps that you've been taking like on a daily basis to expand your network in the commercial real estate community?
So just reading books of different articles, just being on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a fabulous platform because you have people that are like-minded. They're committed to grow. They're committed to learn, and they're posting content. So if you just spend some time on LinkedIn and you connect with the right people that are in your industry, you can just grow from them. You have one person that started a podcast, just listen to their podcast. Something intrigues you, go Google that, go research more on that. Like right now I'm into funds. So I'm like full on funds, like researching, learning, listening to every single podcast about funds. So it's also in commercial real estate. There's so many aspects. You can be in, different assets, different locations. Everything has its own knowledge base that you need to learn in order to get into that. So it's learn, generally like learn where you want to go, which direction you want to go in before. And then once you hone in on your asset or location or niche, then go do some research on that. So it's very hard to give people like specific advice unless they have a specific criteria that they're going for.
You write a column with the New York lifestyle, correct? And how has that helped you with your commercial real estate business?
So it hasn't. I don't know if I've got much exposure from that, but I've got to interview amazing people. So that's been phenomenal. I've interviewed folks like Vinny Chopra, Kenneth Wolf, Brian Burke, and many other phenomenal people that that I'm looking at and I'm learning from them. So it's like really learning from the best, from the most successful in the industry. So, and I also like to highlight other people's success. So that's really exciting to me. I think people like it. So maybe like that sort of like I formed really, a rapport with these people that I interviewed, but I really enjoy like highlighting other people's success. I think it's really nice to see people's growths and to learn from them.
Yeah, you definitely, from the content that I've seen you produce, you definitely have like a giving mindset, which is very appreciative. And not only that, but like you said, the relationship you've been able to cultivate through just interviewing these individuals. I mean, you get to sit down with them, pick their brain about things that you yourself are probably really interested in. You're asking questions that you would like to learn more about, and then you're providing value to them because now they have a piece of content that they could distribute to their network or whatever else. So they'll have a positive memory of you going forward, so that if down the road something were to occur that, you wanted to reestablish that connection point, they'll have that positive experience with you. And I'm sure that in and of itself is going to pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, 100%. Fast forward to one of the people that I interviewed, I ended up helping them with capital. So it's all
full circle, right?
Circle, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So related to that particular topic, can you tell us some of the ways that you cultivate those relationships over time? Because obviously you can have one touch point with someone one time, and that may not be as valuable as maybe having a touch point with someone over multiple different occasions so that you remain top of mind. So do you have any, I guess, what's your approach to cultivating these types of relationships?
Oh, it's been challenging to grow very fast. As crazy as that sounds, it's true, because when you connect to so many people at once, it's hard to establish, quality relationships. But I do try to hone in on the people that are, we can help each other. So I'm connected now to so many people, and I speak to like 100 people a day, whether people call me now for advice or whether I'm asking them advice. So every relationship has its own, different barometer, or however you want to, call it. But it's definitely, it's time. It's putting it out there, putting in that time to respond to their emails and to respond to the messages and just be on top of things. And you see something exciting happened in their life, like share that joy with them. It's really being there with them in business and life. And I try to do that as much as time allows.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you have a lot of other responsibility as well. But like you said, taking an interest in other people's lives. I mean, I have friends that, are very good friends of mine, and they'll just text me out of the blue saying, "Hey, I saw your episode today. It was great. Congrats, man." Like that obviously touches me. And obviously that connection point remains as a result of that. So I think that's some great advice that you shared.
Yeah, it's definitely what you were talking about, Esther, is like what I like to say in the commercial realm is just planting the seed, right? So, and you have to cultivate that relationship with someone, and you're obviously doing a phenomenal job at that with who you connect with. So that's great. Yeah, no problem. So if we were to ask you, I'm really curious about this one, on your first experience invested in commercial real estate, and what are some of the things that you picked up along the way that you learned from the experience?
So my husband was always involved in real estate. He was always like on the notes end. Like I was never involved at that point, but he was always involved in real estate. But I'm talking about writing articles and sharing information and having that giving mindset came back to benefit me, because my husband started reading my posts and seeing the properties that I was posting, and he's like, "Tell me about that. Send me that property." And slowly but surely, he started investing more, and he's now my biggest client. So he started heavily investing. Initially, my goal was to go into the multifamily aspect and, start as the passive investor, like I advise people, and then grow into a GP, either a co-GP and then your own GP on your own. But what happened to us, we partnered with someone that has acquired a few $100 million worth of commercial real estate. And he just brought some industrial opportunities to us that we couldn't refuse. So we went that way. Now we have some industrial stuff. We have some office buildings. We're buying triple net deals. And we're pretty much looking for any good deal anywhere, whether it's multifamily or self-storage or, so any good advice for connecting. It's definitely partnering with the right people. I think that's the best advice I can give. Partnering with someone that's knowledgeable in the area and hiring the right people. We hired an underwriter right now, since that's not our strong point. We're not expert underwriters, so we hired an expert. So I think it's the team and the partners that are the success to it.
Oh, sure. So could you tell us a little bit about that industrial opportunity? Was it, an existing existing tenants in place, or was this one that was kind of more of a value add opportunity where you had to, renovate the interior in some capacity and then fill it with, another, a logistics company, or how'd that look?
Yeah, so right now we have a lot under contract. We have several properties, probably over 250 million at this point under contract. Well, every scenario is different. So some of them were vacant that need to be filled. My husband also has a company that he's placing, parts. He's using some warehouse space for that. The manager's one of the tenants, so he structured it that way. Every case is different. So, yeah, and they're all in different locations.
And I'm sure that presents its own unique situations where you're dealing with a bunch of different markets. But obviously, given the fact you're in the business for been in the business for the few years now, you've probably been able to kind of vet some of those opportunities, and I'm sure they're pretty awesome, unique opportunities. So,
yes, well, we were lucky to partner with this one individual that's been in the business for so long. So, where I'm not bringing the deals, he's sourcing them easily from past for references of his.
Yeah, and again, that's all full circle, right? It's the network you build, because I think I did this analysis one time. It's if you have 200 connections and they in turn have 200 connections, you're 40,000 people, 2 connections removed. So you think that you're not going to be able to leverage those connections pretty easily. That's why I think LinkedIn's so powerful, and obviously you've been able to utilize that platform extremely well over the last few years. So one of the things that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, in particular when you reference your home life and your work life, is balancing the two, because you have, what was it? I think 5 or 6, is 5 children, is it? Or 6?
8 children.
8 children. Okay. So that in and of itself presents a big responsibility in your personal life. So can you tell us a little bit about your ability to balance, your work and life? Because that in and of itself is something that everyone kind of struggles with.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge. So I try my best to be most present as possible with whatever I'm doing. And that is a challenge in itself. But I do have help at home. I don't touch my house. I don't have time for that. So if someone comes, I'm like, sorry, I only live here. I don't take care of the house. There's only a certain amount I can do. So I have some cleaning help. I have some cooking help. I have some help with the children. But I'm still a mommy, and I have to do homework with the kids and carpool and, cook here and there. So I used to cook a lot more. I love cooking. That I cut down on. I used to throw a lot of parties. I cut down on that. I used to host on the weekends, cut down on that. So the weekends are totally for my kids. I got to give them that time, because sometimes I'm working through the night. So I make sure that my kids have their special time. And they obviously come first, always, no matter what. And I always try to take on things that I know are flexible. Like, I cannot take on something like an office job. I wouldn't be able to do, where I have to be at a location 9 to 5. So I have to work with whatever I can. I have to be flexible. It's all about being flexible.
Yeah, I was going to say that I have a lot of respect for you. I only have 2 kids, so I can only imagine quadrupling that. But yeah, running a business and juggling personal life with kids it's a tough responsibility. But I mean, for great parents out there such as yourself, you make the time, right? Just like you said, the weekends are your kids' time, and I could commend you for that. That's a lot of people that are business owners that just starting out with kids. I'm like, you have a schedule, right? So just schedule in family time. If someone calls you, even though it says family time, I'm booked up. Sorry, and so I commend you for that, and it's really impressive, actually. So.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you said being present, because it's very easy to be there, but not be present. Yeah. You're thinking about other things. You're worried about a deal that's going on right now versus, just taking the time to sit down and dedicate that time to those individuals that are important in your life. So
this job takes like 24 hours, like literally, like I can work all day straight. So sometimes it's just like important to like, even during the week, just put the phone away, put the computer away, and just whatever's going on, it's not as important as being right there with them.
Oh, absolutely. So that actually brings me to a question of why commercial real estate? Like, what is your why? What was the reason for you to, was it the flexibility of a schedule? Was it like, what was your why for getting into commercial real estate?
Yeah, so obviously I enjoy, like I said before, I felt like it was it matched my personality kind of. And I really went into it. I began doing this as a hobby. My husband never asked me to go to work, and thank God he's bringing in money. So I didn't have to do it. It wasn't something that I did it out of necessity. I did it out of, want. I wanted to get in. I wanted to be involved. It's like I started this as a hobby, but I am so committed that it turned into this whole thing. Why I got involved in commercial. That's what you asked, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed it. I was also like in a really like tough part. I had a very tough part of my life that one of my kids were born with a medical issue, and I just wasn't in a good place. And I was just really looking for something for me that would bring me satisfaction, that would bring me fulfillment. So that was like, I guess the why you asked, right?
Yeah.
The why, I guess the why was me. I wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted to learn. I wanted to educate myself. Obviously, I'm doing this to build generational wealth for my family, and to have, wealth is creating, substantial amount of capital that you don't have to worry, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
You don't worry about paying your bills and paying tuition. My tuition's pretty high, by the way, private school.
College two coming up, I'm sure. So
my tuition is like a college year for every single kid every year. So just calculate that. Private school. So yeah, I gotta pay for that. I could probably put down a mortgage on a mansion every year for the amounts of tuition I pay. But it's the life, thank God. It's a blessing. It's a real blessing. But the real why was because I wanted to do it for myself.
And I think that the transition point, like you said, where you were transitioning from that role into another role, I'm sure you enjoyed what you were doing before, but this lifestyle and your interest level in this particular field obviously lend itself better to what your interests were. Like for me, for example, I was in software for a long period of time. I really enjoyed the technical side of developing software and consulting, but I knew that long term, in order to build the wealth that I wanted to, in order to really give back in some capacity that resonated more with me, I thought commercial real estate was a better fit for what I wanted to do. So definitely. So just to round it all out, like for the interview, what we like to do is ask a few questions related to primarily what your interest level are in books, for example. So in this case, for this particular question, I wanted to ask you, what's the most impactful book you've ever read? I
don't have much time to read, so I'm not a person to ask that question. But that's the honest truth. I read articles here and there. And the funny thing is that I write, but I don't have too much time to read. I wish I did. But The Power of Now is a really powerful book written by Eckhart Tolle. And it really zones you in to be present. That's where I got that from. And I highly recommend that book. It's like whatever's going on, what happened yesterday, what's going on tomorrow is not what's happening right now. Like how often do we squander the past and worry about the future while not being present? We want to be present as much as possible, right? There's nothing more. There's no tomorrow. Right now, there's right now. So that's what I try to emulate and try to learn from. And
I think it lends itself well to what you were saying before, where it's being present in the moment, because you got so many things, you got so many pans in the fire that if you're not present at one period in every single scenario, then all the pans burn essentially. So that's one of the things that I think people can gain value from what you just said. So,
and I'm saying this, like I'm the biggest worrier. I worry about what to worry about next. And, it's tough for me to stay present and stay grounded. So I'm I keep on reading it and referencing back to it because it's something that I need.
So we ask this of everyone. We have a CRE treasure chest. It's a repository of information that we give to our listeners through our website and stuff. And what is something that you would be willing to contribute to the treasure chest today?
So I've written several articles about commercial real estate, whether it was interviewing, some people that have experience that we would like to learning from the best, or I write about commercial real estate tax benefits. I've interviewed Yona Weiss and Michael Blake, I believe his name is 1031 guy. I've also written about why invest in real estate versus the stock market, like different benefits about real estate. So I pretty much try to give back and teach whatever I know to everyone else. So I can definitely contribute that.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, we would definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think your insights on that interaction with that individual, I think could gain some value, could give value to our listeners. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So to round out the interview, what we really want to do is give you an opportunity to just tell us how people can get in contact with you if they want to learn more about working with you, or if they want to just reach out because they gain some value from this episode they'd like to elaborate on. Could you tell us a little bit about how people can get in contact with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, pretty active on LinkedIn. Esther reizes-lowenbein. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have my website is estherreizes.com. You can reach me at any of those avenues.
Sure. And for those of you guys who are listening on YouTube and podcasts, we're going to be including all that information in the description below. So feel free to check that out. Well, first off, thank you so much, Esther, for stopping by and providing your insights for the podcast. I know that our listeners are going to gain a lot of value from this. As far as you guys that are listening right now, if you're listening to this in a podcast format, please leave a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it. It helps to spread the message that we're trying to provide for the commercial real estate industry. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash the like button and subscribe. It's really helpful for the YouTube algorithm to ensure more and more people can hear this message. So, Esther, thank you so much again for stopping by.
Esther, we really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is fun.
Well, it was great seeing you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.